Than van Nispen is a composer, researcher and lecturer specializing in interactive audio and artificial intelligence for audio applications. And we have a chat. So this is Ansset and you are welcome to Sound Files.
My name is Than van Nispen. I work part-time as a composer, so for different kind of projects, which I elaborate on. And I work part-time at HKU, it's the Utrecht University of the Arts in the Netherlands, at the Faculty of Music and Technology. I do both lecturing, so to students in all years, like the preparatory year, the 4 years of the bachelor, and in the master courses. And within these courses I lecture on composition, and mainly composition for interactive contexts, say game music for instance, as well as the field of sonic interaction design. So that's also a little overlap with this interactive music. Sonic, it's like the sound, the world about sound, you could say. So there's always an interactive component, so the sonic interaction is then covered, and you design for it. So it's either music design, sound design, and also interaction design. So it's really like a triangle with the sonic design, so the design of the sonic relation via interaction. It can also be the other way around, like for instance you have a visual input and you sonify it. So for instance for blind people there are sonic solutions to get information from the world via sound. So then this domain of sonification is also in the realm of sonic interaction design. Personally, I don't do so much with sonification. I'm really very much in the music part of sonic interaction design. But yes, you can also consider the sonification of data sets. And a recent project is, for instance, a project we did in collaboration with a London artist. And so this was indeed a sonification of a big data set which was changing and evolving all time, based on web activity. And this had like a aesthetic component in it. So the sonification was part of the installation. So you had like an aesthetically pleasing sounding result, if you want. The current developments in artificial intelligence, we see it all around us. But then specifically the domain of music and sound is in a fast forward kind of development. So the rate of changes and let's say evolution is very fast. So a lot of these new developments I think are very interesting and worthwhile to share with media composers. So on the field of music generation, artificial intelligence is generating new music, let it be audio or let it be MIDI for instance. But on the other side, the music information retrieval, like the analysis of music. So for instance, people know their Spotify suggestions, and so if you like one thing, maybe you're also interested in another thing. There's interesting progress in the annotation of the music on the audio level, so that aspect. And same goes for the sound designer. Some really interesting developments in, for instance, classifying your sound files based on analysis by AI technologies. So the scope is quite broad, and it's interesting to learn about it and also how you can use it in your everyday work. Aside from the more like philosophical or ethical aspects, like what does it mean if AI generates certain quality music, and how does it maybe compete with certain compositions? Personally, I like making the music myself too much, so instead of having an AI generated for me, I prefer doing it myself. But for instance, for this Young Talent Award prize giving ceremony, I played around with a Dutch application. It's called You Compose by Wout Bremer. And there I had the melody from the winner combined with the melody from the national anthem from the Netherlands, and have the AI make a composition with that. So the harmonization, for instance, was also varying with this melodic material. And I selected a fragment out of over 10 minutes of generated music and had the Kaiser String Quartet perform it. That was a fun experiment, you could say, with AI music generation, and also to see how the audience reacts to it, but also the string quartet players themselves. Like, I didn't change any notes, it was just generated as it was. And it was interesting to see what happens with that piece. I think the music generation was okay. It was counterpoint-wise, it was good to acceptable, but it lacked what I would call like a sort of soul in the coherence. So yes, there was a melody, and yes, the counterpoint was okay, but it kind of went from one place to the other place, a little bit like it went everywhere, but in the same time it went nowhere. And so I had the idea that the quartet was also a little bit looking for stability, like, okay, where are we going? And I sensed another playing style with this robot piece than with the pieces that were written, and of course there was also dialogue between the composers and the quartet. So in a way it lived less. I got some feedback from the audience saying like, we didn't like it, or only from the winner, David Kolder, who won the Young Talent Award. He thought it was interesting to hear his melodic material in another context, and what this context was. So he was mainly interested, but I don't think he did find it a pleasing end result. Some interesting developments you see is that royalty-free, copyright-free AI-generated music is well, there's quite a lot being offered, and for certain productions this music is good enough. And so it's like cheap music, it's abundantly available, it's how do you say, it's also well organized, so it's very simple in its organization and classification. So for certain media productions where the music has not such an important role, more like background music, so also for some company movies, for instance, then good enough is good enough. And if you then don't need the hassle to contact the composer and tell them what you really need, then then these developments are good enough. So for, let's say, simple or mediocre kind of music, there's already a kind of serious competition. I imagine that, for instance, for the temp music, that certain companies, also like IVA, a Luxembourg AI music company, there you can generate the music, download a MIDI file or an audio file, and afterwards you can of course change the MIDI. So, but for instance, as a director, you are looking for a certain style, you find something you like, can download it, and hand over the MIDI. So as a sort of composition assistant, these developments are quite interesting. So I think in the level of temp music we can expect a lot of change or evolution. But then for the fine-tuning and the actual working out in the specific context of the film, you probably will still want to hire a real person, a skilled composer. Currently, AI generates a piece based on what it's been trained on, But if the context asks for a slightly different thing, then it's currently not capable of making an adaptation to that. So currently for the feedback loop, like updates, revisions, etc., you would still really want the human aspect. If you dive into the current music generation, and for instance there's this Hello World album brought out by Sony, which is presented as an AI generated album, and a lot of AI generated music is very valuable as it is in itself, but the important human aspect of the production is often put a little bit aside, as if we really want the AI to have the entire album generated. But for instance, the Hello World album is mainly consisting of a lead sheet with a melody on it. So that's in itself is very very advanced, but skipping or ignoring the fact that somebody writes the lyric, plays the instruments, has to do the recording, etc., is a little over the top. And so once discussion starts, it's often a little bit cloudy, as people have a sort of image of AI taking over all the jobs, but in reality that's really not the case. So it's good to keep that in mind. Like there's a lot of news bringing AI as like the new Mozart, but it's not there yet.
This is the Lonesome Jubilee by John Cougar Mellencamp. There's only hits on that album, but it predominantly shines due to its instrumentation. There's accordion on it too. Lots of accordion. I hate accordion. But for the 1987 Lonesome Jubilee, it is a perfect fit. You have to love it. It's very American without being Americana or even country. The whole album is so organic, fluent and coherent. Although he writes about people's difficulties, the whole album is very positive. You have a good time from start to finish. It even leaves you in a positive mood. Gorgeous album.